Pregame.com.
Sunday, NBA action. We've got the LA Clippers traveling to Denver to play the Nuggets. This is VR's
best bet.
Video best
knock
bet
it
of the
out
week.
Of the park.
He's Vegas Runner. I'm Marco D'Angelo. VR, as we do with these videos, again, this is a Sunday game. We're taping on Thursday, so we don't have an actual line, so we've got to do a projected line.
These players could break their leg tomorrow night.
They could. Anything could happen. And I'm projecting Denver -5 here. The Nuggets have been playing very good basketball. I'll set the stage for you. They just went on a 5-game road trip. They won all 5 games on the road trip. 4 of them were on the East Coast. This kind of weird road trip because they went 4 on the East Coast. Then before they get home, they travel to the other coast and play Sacramento. Now they come home. They play on Friday night, so they're going to have 1 game under their belt before we.
That's huge.
Before we get to see them on Sunday, as does the Clippers. The Clippers are playing. We're taping on Thursday. They play on Thursday night, and they're coming off a big game
against the
last night against the Lakers. But they're going to have 3 days to prepare and be rested. So you are going to get a rested Clipper team playing the Nuggets, who will be playing their 2nd game back at home off the road trip. I set you up. Let's hear the best bet.
I hope you're right with your projection. I think you are. And based on how the Clippers do tonight, primetime game, you know they're going to get a lot of betting action based on what the line is tonight, and who they're playing. They're going to get one-sided action. If they cover, we might even get more value if they come out looking good and bounce back after that Lakers loss. I make my true line. I think Denver should be 8.5 point favorite over this Clipper team. Clippers' bottom line, they're improved, but they came in overvalued. Once they made the trade and picked up CP3, you are not going to get any value on this team. That's the reason, even though they're 9-6 and they're now in a tie with the Lakers for first place in the Pacific, they're only 8-7 against the spread. And I think that's going to start going downhill too. You'll see them below 500 because they are overvalued based on star quality. On the flip side, you have Denver, who no one's going to talk about ever since Carmelo left.
Yeah.
This team, no one's ever talked about him again. And yet, last year, they came right behind the Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, this team went on to win a lot of games last year, and when you're, like I said before we started taping, when your star player is Gallinari, you're not going to get much respect and attention at the betting window. So this is an undervalued Denver squad, and it's not by accident they're 13-5 because they're only 6-2 at home. That means they're 7-3 on the road. A team that could win on the road in the NBA is extremely dangerous. When you look at the Clippers, they're 1-4 outside the Staples Center. So that's a team that I'm not looking to do much damage, especially when playoffs come. And when you can't play defense, which the Clippers can't, you're not going to win in the playoffs. Denver has to shore up their defense as well. That's their weakness. But they're able to overcome that because they're number 1 in the NBA in points scored. They're number 2 in field goal percentage, and they crash the boards. On defense, they're 9th in rebounds. So here's a team that's well-rounded. If they could learn to play defense, I'm telling you, they will give Oklahoma City a run for their money for that division. They're only 2 games back now. But when you look at over where the Clippers are in the Pacific, that's a traffic jam. All those teams are within 5 games of each other. Even the Sacramento Kings could go on a 4-game run and find themselves a game behind first place. So
that ain't going to happen.
No, but I'm just saying, they're going to battle out. I mean, if I have to bet a team that's going to go further in the playoffs, I'll put my money on the Denver team right now. The only question is this, and I think we may get value because of that. Lawson's injured. He may not play. He's doubtful. But I think that may add some more value, and when you look at the rest of their bench, they have Fernandez, Afalo. They're playing injured as well. I think that injury report is what's going to add even more value here. This line may come out shorter than your 5, and then I'm all over it because I think they have enough with Miller and Nene and my stud Gallinari to get it done. I'm telling you, I love Blake Griffin. You know what I mean? I love CP3, don't get me wrong. But the rest of that cast, Billups, he's old, man. Butler, he's not consistent enough. I just don't think this team is there yet to challenge for the top spot in the West.
Well, I agree with you what you're saying here with this game. And Denver, no question, is flying under the radar. This team's not getting the respect. And, you know, this is not a fluke. Like you said, they did it last year after the big trade. They got a lot of, you know, pieces to the puzzle when they gave up Carmelo. And
they're a better team.
Right. They became a team rather than
individual.
Right.
A star,
exactly.
having a stud.
Now, one thing that you did say with the Clippers that I will tend to disagree with. I agree with the fact now that this team is overrated. And you're getting value going against them because there was so much hype
with the CP3
with
and Blake
trade
Griffin.
Chris Paul. Yeah, I agree with that. But just like we saw last year with the Miami Heat, there's an overvalue at the beginning of the season. And there's twofold for that. One, it's just public perception. Oh, they made the big trade, so they're going to be better.
They're
and
exciting
people
to
want
watch.
Bet.
They score points.
But the thing that gets lost is, and more so this year than even last year, these teams didn't have training camps. They didn't have, you know, an extended preseason because of the lockout. So they're behind the curve in getting that team chemistry. We saw last year, as good as the Miami Heat were with the big three, and they ended up going to the NBA Finals last year, they started the season, they were a 500 ball club out of the gate. They got better as they learned to play with one another.
That's something to keep an eye on, for sure.
This is something that I think the Clippers will get better
and offer
later
value
on because
later in the season.
The value's going to flip.
And that's a great point. That's why teams this year, if you look, that's why the Sixers are doing so well. I put them on my value list every week because they have a core group that's been together for a couple years. I mean, this club right now, they may not have had an off season, but it's a team that's played together for a number of years. Where you look at other teams that have made some good trades, have some stars, they're not getting it done. Denver, we know this team.
This from last year?
Exactly. They brought it right away when this season started. I just think the Clippers, Marco, right now, mentally are not in a good place because they just lost to the Lakers.
Absolutely.
That's huge for them. Because they beat the Lakers twice in the preseason, the first time they met them on prime time, if they would have won that game last night, I would have stayed away from them because they'd be flying high and they'd have something to prove and they'd want to stay ahead of the Lakers. But I think their mindset right now is not in a good place.
They got a dose of reality.
Exactly.
They're not as good as, you know, the press clippings.
Exactly. And if they get it done tonight against a weaker team, I think we may get some line value as well because, like I said, as long as Gallinari is your big star, I don't know, his jerseys don't sell all that well. I don't think you're going to have to pay a lot to back this Denver team. I don't think their 13-5 ATS marks is a fluke. Obviously, a market will correct itself, but there's no rush for odds makers to correct their power ratings if the books aren't getting hurt. If Denver covers 80% when the season's over, books won't have a problem with that if bettors aren't betting them.
Right.
You know, that's the key where people say, you know, a team's got to adjust. They got to adjust. They don't necessarily have to adjust. Yeah. They'll adjust if you're getting kicked in the mouth. Yeah. When the Green Bay Packers are covering numbers, they're going to rush to adjust. But when a team that isn't attracting any love is winning and covering, nobody's in any rush to change.
From a fundamental standpoint, Denver plays on Friday night, and that's the first game back home off the road trip. If they have a sluggish game Friday night, which does happen so often to these teams that return home, that's going to set up value for you in the next game, which I always like teams in the second home game more than I like them in the first.
I agree. I'm scared the first game back.
I like going against them in the first game because you get value, on the team because, either you got, now in this situation, they're not coming home looking to bounce back because they had a 5-game winning streak.
But they're looking to keep that momentum going.
And people are going to look and say, well, they won 5 in a row on the road.
Now
they're
back
back
home.
home.
They want to celebrate with the fans. I think in game 2 is when it's a good spot to back them.
You get the truest effort
I'm
from the
hoping
team.
it's a primetime game. You know, Sunday games now
It's
without
the
NFL.
it's the last
there'll
game
be
on
TV games.
it's
I'm
the last
hoping
game.
It's that ESPN game.
So, you know, if you get that, I didn't see the TV schedule, but I know it is the last game on the schedule.
Yeah,
so
I didn't check
You'll
either.
always get money on the last
I'm
game. of the
hoping
day.
it's a prime time game. Just like last Sunday, the bailout was the Lakers on that Sunday night game
With
after the
Indiana.
conference championships. You knew you were in a bad spot if you were going to take the Lakers that day. Books were not going to give it to you cheap and let you bail out for those that lost earlier in football.
This is your best bet. What do
My
you
best
get?
bet of the week on our videos, take the Denver Nuggets, any line of 5 or less, and this will almost definitely be a premium play on my card because I think it should be 8, 8.5 to say the least.
Tell listeners what you got going.
I've
You've
just
on
been
a run.
been grinding, man. I mean, you know, having some real good few months. I'm in a good place working wise, mental wise. Things are just, I'm confident, you know. You know, when you do this long enough, you know if you're feeling it.
They jump off the page.
Exactly. And when you go into every day feeling like I got him,
Yeah.
that's a great feeling because I know there's been times, man, where I've been struggling and I looked at the board and it looks
Looked
like
at
I'm
it
looking at a
again.
different
Yeah,
language.
yeah.
You know what I mean? You feel like you're flipping a coin. Let's tell like it is.
We're back
And you
in
feel
school
like
looking
a
at
jackass
calculus and
for
like,
laying
what the-
11 to win 10 when it's like a coin toss. And other times you're looking at the board and you're like,
Right.
they could make me lay 120 and I'll still take their money. You know what I mean?
Check VR out. You can go to vegasrunner.com, find all of VR's plays. We're going to be back. One more video we've got in the NBA. We're going to look at, I think a few people might be watching this one on Sunday.
Big game. I'm glad you chose it.
Chicago Bulls at the Miami Heat. We'll be right back with that one next.